everybody. Welcome back to the Real Estate Roundup with Bill and Ray. I am Bill Clifford, Mindful Mortgage Solutions, here to tell you all about mortgage rates and what's been going on in the market this week. Ray, did you see the housing report that came out earlier in the week?
I did. I'm Ray Gutierrez, by the way, your friendly local realtor with Chase Sky Realty, here to help you with all of your real estate related questions. So the news was that housing prices actually did fall just a little bit for the first time in a while.
Right. It was the year over year median home price. So for the first time in about 10 years, we saw that dip. It went down by 0.2%, so it's a very small dip, but it has gone down. So that's kind of a big deal. Again, not huge, but it did go down a little bit. And,
right.
And it is the median price, which is a little different. You know, when you're looking at the average prices, that's the average of all the homes sold, right? The median price is based on, just the middle of all the homes sold. What was that price at? So essentially what this is indicating is that with homes that are, higher price houses have gone down or slowed down. Sales of higher price homes have slowed down a bit more than they have with lower priced homes, which I think is kind of what I've been seeing. The more expensive homes, and granted, our market here in Los Angeles is expensive compared to most other markets, but still, the stuff that's entry level is selling quick. The stuff that is higher, over $1.5 million, is sitting a little bit.
Right. Yeah. It's interesting to see that that's happening right now. For the last, I don't know, as long as I've been a real estate agent, right, which is 2016, I've been asked, oh, is this the year that the market is going to turn? Right? Is this the year that home prices are going to fall? Is this the top of the market? Is now too late to buy? Should I have bought before? Should I wait? Even to the point where when I first started training at Keller Williams, all of the talk was about, like, are you ready for the shift? Like, the shift is coming. It's going to turn into a buyer's market, right? There's all this inventory that they're building specifically in downtown LA that was going to create this oversupply of housing, and it was going to cause prices to fall. And for agents, the best times were kind of like behind, right? The market was peaking and things were going to slow down and prices were going to fall and all that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that was 7 years ago.
Right. And that they couldn't have been more wrong, right? I mean,
it never happened.
It kept going up, and then the pandemic hit and it just accelerated into overdrive. I think prices went up in 2020 nationally over 20%, which is insane.
Yeah, that was probably an anomaly, right? Like, just because everybody, like, the pandemic really drove a lot of decision making for people, where people wanted to move now, people wanted more space, people wanted yards. Like, I remember it was also really hot that year too, so I remember, like, any house with a pool was going for 20%, 30% over asking. Like, everybody was thinking that they were going to be locked up in their house forever, and that they needed to have a pool.
Well, it also, the pandemic opened up work from home for a lot of people. So you saw a lot of people going out to the suburbs who normally would try to live a little closer to their job because now we didn't have to drive. So, there were a lot of factors. The interest rates being so low, you could buy a house, basically at that time, $1 million home would cost you the same every month as a maybe $800,000, $750,000 home does now. So that's going to drive up prices. You know, there was a lot of demand, plus people had nothing better to do. They also weren't spending all of their extra money going out because nothing was open. You know,
Right.
yeah, a lot of factors, and that's not going to happen. But just because I think a big reason why people are assuming that we're going to see a dip is because we saw such a spike, you know, and that's
Hmm.
kind of what prior to 2008, you know, 2003 until 2007, same kind of thing, like massive record appreciation of homes. And that was less to do with rates going down, more to do with uh, more with availability of loans opening up, right? They were just lending money to everybody. So that is what created that frenzy and brought more buyers into the market because more people could get qualified for a mortgage. Um, so the question, you know, is it going to go down? Are we at the peak? Is it going to go down? Are we going to have a crash? Is that what's going to happen? You asked me before our meeting, you know, what's the one thing that people seem to be the most concerned about, and that's what it is, at least with the people I'm speaking to. Um, you know, are we going to see another crash? And as much as I can hammer that home, that no, we're not going to see another crash. None of the things that led to the last one are in place. It's really hard to get that through to people. Another thing I posted on my Instagram was a chart that I found, and it shows that since 1941, there have only been 7 years where the property values went down. You know, and 4 or 5 of those years were coming out of the 2008. So real estate typically doesn't go down. It doesn't always go up, you know, 10, 15, 20% per year, but you can generally expect you know, a bit of an increase every year on real estate. And I think that's what we're going to continue to see.
Yeah, and that brings us back to what is it that people are expecting when they buy property? What are
Mhm.
their reasons? What are their motivations for buying property, right? And it's one of like the first things that I was trained to, identify with people. So, whether they're buying, selling, what are your motivations? Because they're going to be different for everybody,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And that's going to guide how their search is going to go. It's going to guide how the negotiations are going to go, all of that. And it's really important to understand what your motivations are. Are your motivations, are you looking at things purely from just an investment standpoint?
Mhm.
Like, is this just about maximizing your investment potential, buying a property that's going to appreciate the most, it's going to generate the most rental income, all of that. And if you're looking at things that way, then there's a specific way that you want to approach your entire search process, your negotiation process, all of that. If you're looking at things more like, the investment portion, of course, is important, but
Mhm.
what I'm really looking for is a home that I really love for myself, for my family, my loved ones, whoever, right? That I can see myself being in for a long, long time. Is that the most important thing?
Right. Right.
Because those things, the investment part and the sort of personal comfort, happiness part, might not always be completely in cooperation with each other. They might be in conflict with each other. Like the house that you might love the most, that you might feel might bring you the most happiness, the most comfort for your family, might not be the best investment.
Sure.
And the best investment might be a house where you go, oh man, that house makes a lot of sense as an investment, but I don't really like it.
Right.
I don't really see myself living there. It might be that that place could be a cash cow, but I don't want to live there, that kind of
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
And identifying, understanding what those motivations are, it's really important to understand that for yourself. And it's also really important to communicate that to your real estate team, to your
Mhm.
agent, to your mortgage broker, so that they are working in behalf of your best interest and what your motivations truly are.
That's right. That's right. Rather than
Right.
assuming what your motivations are and what's important to you, and you know, I find that a lot of times with the clients I'm working with, they have not defined those things for themselves. You know, they will get caught up. You know, maybe they're looking to buy a home that they plan on living in for a long time, yet they get super caught up in, you know, the value of the home, whether it's appreciating, whether you know, just all the more finer investment details, when it's like, well, you know, this is kind of important, but do you like the house? You know, do
Yeah.
you want to live here? Do you think you're ever going to, when do you think you're going to sell this house? When, you know, and that's, you know, you really want to wait and maybe not, may not be able to find a house that you don't like. Um, you know, that's a lot of people just sort of assume like, oh, if I wait, you know, I'll find a better deal later or something I like more, whatnot. But it's not always the case.
It's not always the case, and every house is different. You know, I think about this all the time, just like when I'm out walking the dog, right? You're out, you're walking around, you're looking at different houses that are just on the street, and each house is different, and each house is going to create an entirely different living experience for whoever is in that house, right? And you know, we don't get to take our pick from every house that is out there.
Right.
There's not a lot of inventory, and when one pops up that you connect with, that you like, then that's a special moment, because that doesn't necessarily have to happen. It doesn't have to be that way. People can be
No,
searching
very
for a
true.
long time, and they can be totally ready, right? They can have an 800 credit score, they can have $500,000 in the bank to put down, and they can be qualified for, you know, $3 million, and they can be looking for a year, 2 years, and there might not be a house that comes on the market that they, you know, that they like, that they
Right.
go, you know what, regardless of the investment piece of this, you know, I still don't feel like it's a good idea to spend, you know, $2 million on this house that I don't like. You
Yeah,
know,
absolutely.
you never know when that property that you connect with, that you fall in love with, is going to come on the market. So, you know, what I tell people who ask me what's going to happen, I always say, I don't know.
Mhm.
I don't know.
True.
You know, and I've had people tell me like, "Oh, you shouldn't say that. You should act like you know." And I say, "But I don't. I
Mhm.
don't know if the economy is going to completely collapse tomorrow. I don't know. All I know is that, as you said, historically, this is generally what happens, right? Historically, generally, home prices do go up. Every once in a while, there are, you know, black swan events that come along that cause things to happen where home prices take big dips, and you know, massive layoffs cause big things in the economy, all of that stuff, right? It does
Mhm.
happen, but
Mhm.
we don't know when it's going to happen. And as I said, I've been told for every year for the last 7 years that this year was going to be the year,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
You know, and it hasn't quite worked out that way. So, you know, what's going to happen? I don't know, but I do know that if you are not actively looking, that if you're not connected to your real estate team, that you won't really know when things do happen, right? And
Right.
you, what people should want to do is, you know, regardless of whether or not they feel like today is the day I'm going to buy a house, if they're even thinking about it, then they should be wanting to put themselves in a position to make a move if there is a move to be made.
Right, exactly, and familiarizing themselves with what's going on and what's selling and stuff. It's, you know, it is pretty easy to get a feel for what's happening in the market if you pay attention. You know, open up your
Hmm.
Zillow or Redfin or whatever app, or your real estate drip that you're sending campaigns you're sending out for their neighborhood. You're going to see if it looks like, okay, well, you know, this home that I looked at last month was, you know, $10,000 more, and it wasn't as nice as this one that they're asking less. You know, and again, if you're not looking at what the houses actually sell for, that can be a deceiving way. But it's still, you can get a feel for what's happening in the market if you're paying attention. I mean, I have a 3 or 4 different markets at any given time that I'm watching, just places that I'm interested in, and considering that I would like to buy at some point in time. I'm not ready at the moment, but I at least, the more that I look, the more I pay attention, the more familiar I become with it, and yeah, it makes a big difference. And then when you are ready to go, you can just go, instead of having to go through all the process, and maybe you lose that house that was the one.
Yeah, because there is a process there, and a lot of people don't, realize, especially if they're first time home buyers, or, even people who have bought homes before, but it's been a while because you're busy,
Mhm.
right? Like, people who aren't real estate professionals are, caught up with their lives, right? They have lives, they have their own jobs, this and that. You forget, that, oh, right, to buy a house, I've got to get all these documents together, and I've got to get approved for the mortgage, and that takes this much time. And the lag time between deciding to get the process started and to when you're actually ready could be months.
Right, right.
It could be months. So, regardless of what the market is doing, whether or not you think, I mean, for a lot of people out there who are in a certain type of position, if they think that, prices are going to fall really soon, then now is absolutely the time to start to get that stuff together,
Mhm.
right? Because you want to be capitalizing on this market that is turning to where prices are going down. Even if interest rates are high, if you're thinking about buying anytime soon, you want to be in that position to make that move,
Right.
right? A lot of people made a lot of money in 2009, 2010, 2011, buying those houses that became available,
Mhm.
because those people were ready and they were in there at the right time in the right place. And since then, they've experienced what, 100% appreciation on a lot
Oh
of those
God.
properties.
So I remember 2009 or 2010, um, Frogtown over here on the east side. For anybody
Right,
that's familiar, it's right along the LA River. It's kind of this little
yeah,
pocket, and definitely was not a nice neighborhood for many years. And the LA River was not, as nice as it is now. They've kind of starting to redo it and whatnot. But after the crash, you could buy a little house over there for like $200,000, which is about as cheap as I've ever seen homes in Los Angeles. But $250,000 for a starter home, a 3-bedroom, 1 bath, or whatnot, 1,000 square feet. Those houses now there's nothing in that neighborhood for under like $850,000, $900,000, and
hmm,
nothing nice for under $1 million. So
right.
that's, yeah, what, five times the appreciation in 10 years. Pretty crazy.
Right. Yeah. And those people were able to, it make a move because they were in the right place at the right time and they had everything together. And, even if there's another event like that where prices fall, all of a sudden more houses become available because people need to sell their house because the economy is tanking, that kind of thing.
Mhm.
Well, and, you're a person who has their money saved and everything is good, and you want to buy some real estate, buy up some properties, you're not going to be the only one.
Right, right.
You're going to be competing. There's going to be a lot of other people out there actually who are in that position, and there's going to be big corporations who are out there too, who are going to be trying to buy up those properties, and they're going to move fast because they have all of their assets together, they have everything together, and they can move, right? So,
Mhm.
you know even if you're under the impression that the economy is, going to go in a bad way and prices are going to fall drastically, then it makes sense to start getting that process together and getting in a position to capitalize on that. I'm not saying that's what's going to happen. Like I said, I don't know. I
Yeah.
really have no idea. That could happen. That could not happen. Prices could just keep going up, right? Like 0.2%. That's not a lot. That's just
No, no,
like
no. And
the only
and
reason it's even a story is because it's the first time it's happened in a while. It's just that's it.
that's right. That's right. And we can get back to that report for a second because there was a couple of other key pieces to that. Right. So the median home price did drop for the first time in about 10 years by 0.2%. Housing inventory is also up 15.4% year over year. and that sounds like a lot, right? You would
But that's only
15.4%.
year over year.
It's year over year, right? So let me see if I can pull this graph up and show you, because basically they're still at like historically low levels. There was 980,000 homes on the market. Of those homes that are on the market, let's see, 578,000 of them were active listings. So the rest of them are already under contract, so they're not really available. So that means there's 578,000 homes available on the market, and that's a supply of 1.5 months, which is still extreme.
Right, that's nothing.
That's extremely low. So
Yeah,
the number that it's replacing year over year was the all-time low. So,
right. What's
that's
considered to
one
be
of those
healthy?
things.
It's supposed to be like 6 months of supply, right?
Uh, yeah, a regular market will have like 4 to 6 months.
Right.
Supply. So still super low. And then the other piece, let's see, average days on the market was 34 days. 57% of homes sold in less than 30 days. So, that does show that homes are still selling pretty quickly. And there was one more piece here. Month over month, existing home sales jumped 14.5% in February, snapping a 12-month slide. So what that means is that compared to January, we're up 14% in how many homes have actually sold. And that just indicates that people are getting back out there in the market and buying houses. So it is picking up a little bit. Prices are stagnating. There is a little bit more inventory on the market than there has been in the past, but it's still pretty low. That's kind of the gist of the housing report. And some of the media, depending on which story they want to tell, a lot of them are like, oh my gosh, inventory is up 15% and prices have gone down. It's the market is falling, the bottom's falling out, we're crashing. And that seems, very premature and unlikely.
Yeah, I
a
think,
little bit deeper.
Like for people who really want to get a reasonable perspective on what's going on, right? Talk to a real estate professional that you trust.
Right.
Because we're going to have a different kind of outlook on things than, the news that's getting reported. Just because, we're looking at things from a longer perspective, whereas the news job is just to like give you sort of the latest information and make it seem like it's the most important, biggest thing that's happened since yesterday.
That's right. And to make it seem like as big of a deal as possible.
Right.
Obviously,
yeah.
Attention, more outreach, as we all know that. I would say to comment on your point too, when you're talking to real estate professionals, it is also important to gauge who you're talking to and what they're telling you, because you do get some people out there who are like, oh my gosh, this house is going to sell, who are just pushing to get things sold and trying to push people into the market.
Basically, anybody who is 100% sure and like so confident about things that, they really don't have a lot of reason to be that sure or that confident about,
Right.
That's a red flag. You want people who are going to tell you the truth based on the information that they have, that they can show you, and give you opinions that are validated by that evidence and not go beyond what it is that they're capable of communicating in that moment. They're not experts on the economy at large. They don't know what is going to happen.
Yeah, no, that's right. That's right. You have people who are willing to discuss both sides of the maybe it's this, maybe it's that. I tend to think it's this, but it could be either.
Right. Yeah. Just reasonable perspective. our job is to provide people with information so that people can make decisions themselves. It's not to make decisions for them. It's not to, that's not what our job is. Although, you know, there's a lot of real salesy people out there who are going to be really pushy into getting people to do certain things. You know, a good real estate professional is here to tell you what's going on and, you know, let you decide.
Yeah, yeah. Help you find your motivation.
Right, exactly. Ask you the right questions so that you understand what's going on. Switching gears a little bit. I know we didn't discuss talking about this before, but it's important, and I think it's affecting a lot of people right now. But let's take a minute to talk about maintaining your home. The rain.
Yeah, yeah.
A lot of people out there, I've been getting calls from people, former clients who bought homes, you know, and having trouble, right? With like roof now, leaks, things are happening, right? What do you do in that situation? You know, people, when you close on your house, the previous owner is not contractually obligated to make any repairs to the house now that something has happened, now that you own the house, right? And you know, your agent also isn't either. Like, part of the process of buying a house is going through, doing inspections, and agreeing to that purchase, and for the condition that the house is in at the time that you buy it, with whatever sort of, you know, negotiated terms that you've gotten during the course of the process. But you know, once that deal closes, that house is your house, right? And I think a lot of people, and it's totally understandable why, right, are now running into this weather stuff. You know, because you buy a house in LA, you're like, it never rains here, you know.
Right,
Like,
right. Yeah,
they said the
you
roof
don't
needs some
expect
work.
this.
You don't have to do that right now, you know. Now, you know, it's rained twice as much this year as it did last year already.
Yeah, it's been pretty wild, you know. I mean, I'm from Seattle, so I'm
Yeah.
remember what it was like to live in the rain, and this feels worse. I think just because the town's not as prepared for it, the roads aren't made for it. But yeah, in terms of keeping your house up, a couple things to keep in mind are your drainage, right? Your water going out. One of our friends, he had his house flood on Christmas in Seattle. The basement flooded, and he
Right.
was telling me about it. We were talking on the phone, and he's like, "Yeah, the main line that takes all of the leftover water and everything out to the street, was not it had a little bit of a kink in it, so it can get a little bit of buildup, and they got a lot of snow, and that thing filled up, and water started coming through the drains of the house and filled it up, and it was a reminder to me that my drainage is not great either. When I bought the house, they had to do a power cleaning of the main line to make sure there's no roots in
Right.
there and to get everything out. And so as soon as I spoke with him, I called the plumbers and had them come and re-clean out my main line. And so far, so good. No issues with any kind of flooding or anything like that. But I also had my garage take on some water, and it was really from the water running down the street going under, into the garage from underneath. It didn't leak through the roof, but it was, just there was so much water coming down the hill that the diversion that they had created was not enough of a diversion to get all the water out. So I got a little bit of water on the floor in there, but I saw one neighbor had some sandbags out. They lived at the bottom of a kind of a steep driveway, so that's one thing to keep in mind maybe if you're having some of these issues. But yeah, take care
Yeah,
of
I think the key there, if you know that there is an issue, or that there could be an issue, or if it's on your mind,
Mhm.
if you can, because of course, like not everybody can, right? Like that's one of the big things about having a house. Like it's sometimes these expenses are big, right? You know, and you're
Mhm.
not always in a position to deal with that. But if you can, look into it.
Yeah.
At when you think, you know, there might be an issue, look for it sooner than later. You don't want to be in a position where, like, you know, the weather is the weather,
Yeah.
right? There's nothing we can do about it.
No.
If it starts raining like this, it's raining and we've got to, you know, wait until it doesn't. And water is an unstoppable force. And once it's out there, like we've got to deal with it. So that's my little tip for everybody. It's just hey, specifically like when you buy your house and you close in your house and there are items in that inspection report, you know, you understand, okay, like maybe we've negotiated, you know, some credits for this item, or we've gotten this thing repaired. That's good. Typically, it's still not everything,
Right.
right? There's things that you're gonna be like, you're gonna close in the house and you're like, all right, well, we still have to take care of this thing or that thing. You know, don't forget about it.
Yeah.
I'm not saying you've got to go get it all done right away, but don't, you know, don't forget about
Mhm,
it.
mhm.
put it
Yeah,
put it
that's
on a
probably
list of things to do and work on it over time.
right. Right. Another, I guess, just point kind of adjacent to this is that I deal with a lot of insurance agents, and they've been telling me that insurance rates have been going up. We've had fires, and now we're having floods, and all these things. So the rates are going up. But if you have a water claim, like a water damage claim on your house, then your insurance is going to go way up the next time they renew it. And when you sell the house, it may not even be insurable because the claim follows your house. So basically, what these insurance guys are saying, which is kind of
Yeah,
is
it's
kind
messed
of a
up.
crappy thing to be hearing from your insurance guy. Like, well, if you can avoid making a claim on the water damage, even though we're insuring your house, you probably shouldn't make the claim. But that said, if you can avoid making that claim, if it's not that expensive of a repair, then you might want to avoid it.
Just look in, be aware of that.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, I did not know that. That's really, really crazy.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so the best maintenance is preventative maintenance.
Hmm. Hmm. Thanks, Captain Safety.
Gas and safety here.
um,
Cool.
what else happened this week? We had the Federal Reserve had their meeting today as well, and they raised the Federal Reserve overnight borrowing rate by another 0.25%, and that it was kind of a question as to whether or not they were going to raise the rate at all, because the Silicon Valley Bank, that was one of the reasons why their whole thing imploded, was that they were investing in mortgage-backed securities and treasury bonds when the rate was so low, and the Federal Reserve raised the rate so quickly that it basically made those investments worthless. So, there's been some blame on the Federal Reserve for this, and it's opened up some questions as to how many other institutions are carrying a whole bunch of these 1.5% long-term bonds. But
Right.
anyway, it looks like most of that has kind of calmed down for now, but we'll see how that all shakes out. But what they did, instead of raising, they were talking about possibly raising it by 0.5%. They raised it by 0.25%. They're telegraphing that they probably will do one more raise for another 0.25%, and that's about where they expect it to stop. So that's good news. The one thing about this, the reason they're raising the rates is to try and slow down inflation by slowing down the market. If rates are higher, maybe you won't use your credit card as much. If rates are higher, businesses are going to borrow less money to create more products, so keeps less stuff on the market. The idea is just to slow the economy down, and that takes some time. These interest rate hikes that they've been doing for the past year or so now, it takes a while for all that to catch up and for it to reflect in the inflation report. So,
Mhm.
hopefully we're going to see the inflation continue to come down, the Federal Reserve to stop hiking rates, and if those things happen, then we'll start to see interest rates come back down. And today was a good day for the rates. After a very volatile week, we've finished in a pretty good spot so far.
What are they today?
I think we're right around 6.5% on a 30-year fixed.
Yeah, so it was pushing up to about 7% not too
Right.
long ago.
Right. A couple weeks ago, I think. So
Mhm.
prior to the Silicon Valley Bank, like
Right. Yep.
that kind
Yeah.
of led
So
to
that's interesting, right? Like a big event like that, a huge bank fails,
Mhm.
right? The entire economy did not collapse. Rates went down a little bit.
Yeah. The economy didn't collapse, but it definitely caused some fears within the greater populace about the state of the economy and where things are at.
Mhm.
That brought the rates down a little bit.
All right.
Yeah,
Well, that's all I got.
me too. Have a great one, everybody, and thank you for tuning in. And we will see you next time.
Adios, y'all. Bye.
All right, bye.